Time to talk Trojans here at the Voice of College Football. We bring in a Claudette Montana Pattison to do just that. You can catch her work on USC SI. And Claudette, we appreciate you stopping by to break down the Trojans.
Thanks for having me. Excited to talk about all things USC.
There we go. There we go. And most of the time that starts with Clay Helton.
Yes.
You know that probably better than anyone, that a lot of USC fans are out there thinking, okay, big season would be amazing, but if we're not going to meet expectations, let's get him out of town. So where do you think most of the fan base stands right now? And where do you think the expectations lie in regards to him staying around?
Yeah, that's a question I get asked all the time. I was doing a show earlier, got asked the same question. I think that the general consensus around USC fans is that they're not really happy with where the program is at right now. That being said, I don't know how you necessarily fire a coach that went 5-1 and made it to the Pac-12 championship game. I think that a lot of people are also forgetting last season and also the success that he has had. He has taken teams to Pac-12 title games. Now they're not in the national championship. They're not, in the top 4 college football playoff, and that's where they want to be. And that's their goal for this season, of course. But to just say that he's not doing the job, that, last season was a bust, in my opinion, is not entirely accurate.
I don't think it's accurate either. And I'm not necessarily promoting Clay Helton as an elite coach or anything. But yeah, if you look season to season, his team is contended in the Pac-12. I think his record's like 36-12 in conference play. Mm-hmm. He turned in an excellent season, of course, in 16 and then in 17 when they did go to the Cotton Bowl after winning the Pac-12. So we shall see what they do, of course, coming up here soon. Keaton Slovis, another guy that's under scrutiny to a certain extent, even though he's turned in 2 excellent seasons by a lot of measures. But do we think that he suffered a sophomore slump?
That's the common phrase that's being used right now, sophomore slump. I think what people also forget about Keaton Slovis last season is that USC virtually had 0 depth at the quarterback position last year. They had Mo Hassan, they had a couple walk-ons, they had Matt Fink, but none of those guys were like where Keaton Slovis was back in 2019 when JT Daniels got injured and he was that next guy up and he was good enough to really take over and command an offense. They didn't have a guy like that last year. So put injuries into the equation and then also throw in the COVID-19 pandemic. I think that it would be normal for him to play with some hesitation last season, just because if he wasn't healthy, if he wasn't available, they would have been virtually screwed. Honestly, I think they wouldn't have even been able to play in some of their games. So I think people are forgetting that too when they're analyzing his numbers from last season. USC also didn't play their full 12-game schedule. They only played 6 games, which obviously the numbers are going to look a little bit different. But yeah, he said during Pac-12 media days, and he said that he's been working really on his accuracy, his arm strength this offseason. He's trying to kind of work out those kinks before this season. And I think he knows that the pressure is on. He's already making 2022 NFL draft noise, Heisman, noise. And he knows that this is a big year, a big season for him. He knows that the expectations are high for this football team this year as well. So I would predict that he will definitely have a better season than he did last year. And it's also nice to have just in the back of your mind that you have 2 backup quarterbacks, Miller Moss and Jackson Dart, that are already immersed in the system and also doing pretty well as well during the fall camp.
Please like the videos, share the videos out on social media, because if you enjoy the content, others will as well. We got Claudette Montana Pattison on the line from USC on the SI platform. Claudette, the running back position is much in flux. You lose 2 good ones, but USC brings in Keaton Ingram as well. Do we expect him to be solely the number 1 guy, or, well, 5 Mile Pay, I forget. Wow. Yes. There we go. So we got a 1-2 punch there with those 2. Anybody else in the mix?
Well, last year, USC really kind of switched around between 3 running backs, Levi Malpai, Stephen Carr, Marquise Stepp. Obviously, Marquise Stepp and Stephen Carr, as you mentioned, have left the program. But we heard from running back coach Mike Jinks earlier in the season, and he said that they really want to move to be more in a phase where they have 2 main running backs, not 3. Because just when you start having 3 guys in the mix and with the amount of touches that they get as it is, it just doesn't become that much. So yeah, Keaton Ingram does look like a leader. as of right now. They also brought in Brandon Campbell. He's a freshman. He's been looking pretty good as well. But kind of all eyes right now are on Keontae Ingram and Vivai Malpai to win that spot right there.
A lot of eyes on Drake London, too. Even in down seasons, USC has just boasted ridiculous wide receiver talent under Clay Helton, and he appears to be the latest in terms of an emerging superstar.
Yeah, and he had a really strong season last year. Of course, they had Amon-Ra St. Brown and Tyler Bonds, which also those two played significantly last year. But this season, it's kind of Drake London's time to shine. Him and Keaton Slovis have a great relationship. They're tremendously accurate between the two of them. They've been looking really good at fall camp so far. The biggest question really is going to be who is going to step up and replace Brew McCoy. As of now, he's not practicing with the team due to a legal incident. And so, I mean, that's not really an area of concern. Of course, Brew McCoy is very talented. It would have been great to have him out there this season, but USC also has so much talent at wide receiver, as you mentioned, that they're pretty stacked at that position. So even if guys do get injured, they should be okay there.
Okay, Claudette. Sometimes, of course, those guys up front get forgotten, so they make it all work. How's the offensive line stack up at this point?
So that's also, a very big topic of conversation when it comes to USC. They let go of their offensive line coach last year, brought in a new guy, Clay McGuire. So they're hoping that he's going to start to turn things around, really open things up for the run game, which they're trying to, of course, improve on this year. And then also help Keaton Slovis not have as much pressure on him as he did last season. Elijah Vera-Tucker, obviously their starting offensive tackle last season, left tackle, I'm sorry, he left for the NFL. So still not clear yet on who's going to replace him at that position. Right now, they like Cortland Ford. They like Jonah Monheim. But as of now, things are looking good. They're progressing well. Clay McGuire is happy with what they're doing. And he's telling his team that he wants their offensive line to be the best offensive line in the Pac-12 conference and in all of college football. So we'll see if that happens.
When we look at the defense, Claudette, Todd Orlando came in, of course, with a track record and a big name, and they really amped it up in regards to turnovers. But at the same time, I think one of the most exciting players to watch. I was just fascinated, always watching Talanoa Hufanga. Of course, he moves on to the NFL. Right. Your thoughts about the defensive play? Still a lot of standout guys on that side of the ball.
Yeah, I think their defense is going to be just fine this year, honestly. Obviously, they lost Talanoa Hufanga. He had a ton of interceptions last season. I felt like every single game I was watching, he was making an interception one way or the other and just making a spectacular play. Super talented player. But they have guys like Chris Steele in their secondary that are really talented. They have Drake Jackson, really talented linebacker. And then they have new faces coming in as well. Corey Foreman, he's a freshman. He's looked really good. Rayshawn Davis, Clay Helton said that he brings a pro mindset to practice, that he's looked really good, really sharp. So I think their defense is going to be fine. Also, what people kind of tend to forget is that last season, USC had a new defensive coordinator, Todd Orlando, and they had to install a lot of their defensive schemes through Zoom. And then they didn't have a spring, they didn't have a fall because they got off to a late start. So that made it really difficult, just trying to learn a whole new system and kind of work with their new defensive coordinator as well. So I think now that they've had the spring, now that they've had a proper fall camp, they've been in summer workouts, I think that you will see them be a little bit better this year than they were last year.
We talk USC here at the Voice of College Football, but you want to take the deep dive and check out Claudette's work there at USCSI. Claudette, we appreciate you stopping by. But one more thing, always like to get that expectations question out of the way, especially in regards to USC. This is always an interesting one. So where do you think they should aspire to be? Where do you think the fan base, the reasonable fans, will get the other folks out of the way, think that this team can land in 2021?
I think the expectation should always be to be in the college football playoff and to be competing for a national championship. I think that's the expectation that USC has for themselves. I think that's the expectation that USC fans have for the program. If we're being realistic about this upcoming season, I would say it's a really good shot that they win the South. I think that their toughest games might possibly be their non-conference games. They're going to play Notre Dame this year, which will obviously be a difficult game. They're a very talented team. But yeah, I think that there's no reason why they shouldn't win the South. There's no reason why they shouldn't be back in the Pac-12 championship. And I think that we could very well see a rematch between USC and Oregon this season.
Claudette is now off to practice. Claudette, we appreciate you stopping by.
Yes. Thank you.